So today I'm going to read to you a story about a man who had everything, but that everything was not enough for him. And that man's name is David. So we're still on the livelihood of David, and excuse me. But today we're going to be talking about David and Bath-sheba. Last time we were talking about David and Abigail, but today we'll be talking about David and Bath-sheba. And like I said, he was a man who had everything, but everything was not enough for him. So we're going to start off in 2 Samuel chapter 11. And we're going to read that whole chapter, and then we'll continue further on another day. All right. And it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. So when these people went to Rabbah, they destroyed, which means they basically annihilated. They fought them and they won. It was like probably 0-35, something like that. They won. They annihilated them, and instead of them grabbing the spoils and going back to their hometown, they stayed in Jerusalem. And it came to pass in an evening tide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing. She was washing herself. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And so instead of David like turning away or going back into his royal quarters, he decided, like any man, to stay and look. He stood there and gazed upon her. And David sent and inquired after the woman. So he asked questions about her. And one said, "Is not this Bath-sheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife, that should have stopped him right there, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" So he was, since it didn't stop him, I guess he was feeling a little entitled, And David sent messengers and took her, and she came in unto him, and he lay with her. Just because he could. He was the king. He laid with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness, which means she wasn't on her period anymore, because there was a period of 7 days when you were on your period not administration. She was on her period or menstruation. That's the proper word for it. And usually that lasts about 7 days. So after that was over, she was considered to be purified and not unclean anymore. So David laid with her. And then she went back home. She returned to her house. And so, like, David took advantage of her. Like I said, he was the king. And there was no way that she was going to say no to the king, because she could have died. There could have been like dire consequences for saying no to the king. So she laid with him, even though she had a husband. And David knew she had a husband too, because his servants told him, because he inquired. So he knew, he was well aware, but he slept with her anyway. And so she went home, and the woman conceived and sent and told David. So most of us women have a history of sleeping with men, and then we get pregnant, and then we tell them, oh, I'm pregnant, and we know what happens after that. 9 times out of 10, they act like they ain't have nothing to do with it and don't know how you got pregnant. So she sends word and tells David that she is now conceived. She's pregnant. She sent word and told David and said, I am with child. And David sent to Joab, saying, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. So now it was time for David to start covering up stuff. Cover up time. Let's see how I can fix this where I won't be found out. And when Uriah was come unto him, David demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered. He was just making up like useless conversation, wanting to know, what was happening at the war. How's everything going, Uriah? How's this? How's your life? How's the war going? How's the chief treating you? How is this? Just useless conversation. And David said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. So after the king told Uriah to go home, he sent with him like food. He sent him meat and all this stuff. Like he sent this stuff home to him. See, remember I say he's trying to cover up his own sin. So he's telling him to go home and eat with his wife and all this good stuff in hopes maybe he'll sleep with her. And then it won't look like I impregnated her, but, her own husband did. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all of the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house. Why? Why didn't he go down to his house? And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, camest thou not from thy journey? Why then didst thou not go down unto thine house? And Uriah said unto David, the ark and Israel and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife, as thou livest and as thy soul liveth? I will not do this thing. And David didn't bank on his loyalty. David didn't bank on him saying, the ark and all the servants, all the warriors, they're sleeping outside, they're in tents. And you expect me to go to my house, go to my wife, eat with her and lay with her? Now is not the time for laying with my wife. Now is the time for war. So as my soul lives, I will not. And as your soul lives, I will not do this thing. And David said unto Uriah, tarry here today also and tomorrow, and I will let thee part. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the next day. And I'm sure David was using this time to figure out what else was he going to come up with. How else was he going to get him to do what he needed him to do so he wouldn't get busted? And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his Lord, but went not down to his house. And I'm going to end right there because we're going to find out what happened next. And I might come before you tomorrow and finish it up. Okay? All right.